Right. And welcome, Mauricio. Shall we do a quick round of introductions, or does everyone here know everyone here? Or maybe we should do a quick round of introductions for the sake of the recording. I'm Benji Fisher, the junior member of the maintainers team for the migration subsystem. I usually run the weekly meetings, and I spend a fair amount of time doing code review of the issues marked needs review, although haven't had a chance to do much of that in the last couple of months. Mike, Vicky?
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm Mike. Yeah, I'm another one of the maintainers of the migration system. Haven't done a lot of work in coding on it, but as of late. But I've been trying to keep in the meetings and voice opinions strongly, which is my favorite part. My favorite thing to do as a maintainer is to have opinions on things other people want to do. I like to tell them why that's not a good idea.
All right, I'm Vicky. I'm also a migrate maintainer. And I'm still laughing about Mike, what he said. I love his strong opinions. Great.
I'm not shy with them.
Marco?
Yeah, I just do the UI and tend to do the translation issues.
And the testing.
And keep us honest and core with commerce, which is our biggest contrib test of when we make changes and screw things up.
Yeah.
Or are you still working on commerce? You're probably not doing as much with it anymore, are you?
No, and I'm feeling guilty. I need to go back there and make another release or something and look at the queue. But
well, I'm in the middle of a commerce migration project, so I will. I have a couple of bugs that I need to log for you.
Just ping me. I need motivation, and the direct approach will help.
Marco?
Yeah, and I'm Marco. I'm Marvilo7 on Drupal.org, and I am not a core migrate maintainer, but I am around the Drupal core ECQE and also a lot around the migrate plus migrate tools ECQEs. So yeah, really doing lots of migrations. So really interesting in the topic.
And Mauricio? Are you having trouble with audio?
He suggested on chat that he will be only on chat, so he is hearing, but it seems like mic will be off.
And he writes, I enjoy doing migrations and debugging the code to learn how the API works. And I will point out on his behalf that Mauricio also does a lot of training in Migrate and a lot of documentation. And I still refer people to his series of blog posts, the 31 Days of Migrations. Very valuable resource.
So here's the $1 million question. Did anybody put down an agenda for this meeting prior to the meeting?
Well, that was my next question is, what are the things we want to discuss?
There are a couple of things. So maybe on behalf of Ivan, I'm not sure how that's pronounced in Ukraine. He's not able to be here because he's in Ukraine, whatever time zone that is in. But he is looking for some, excuse me, sign off or permission from the maintainers on the question of whether the SQL queries that we generate in our source plugins should be more deterministic, whether we should add an order by clause so that we get more reproducible results, which sounds like a good idea to me. Mike, I think you might have had some, excuse me, some objection to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't get us anything in core because core preserves IDs and the whole migration system is not supposed to require determinism to work. So like I understand maybe he's got a use case for it. Just from a pure like core upgrade perspective, there is no purpose to it. But I'm not, I won't have a giant objection if someone wants to put the work into it. It's not something I would consider a priority. I will say though that where he posted that if he was going to do it, he would do a meta issue and a bunch of little individual issues for each plugin. I will definitely say on behalf of the committers that that's not going to fly. If it's something we're going to do, I can pretty much promise that that Alex and Ketch are going to want one PR that does them all, and not to be going in and doing a whole bunch of little issues that make a single plugin deterministic. So I will assume that that just from knowing those guys and without actually asking them that that's going to be an issue. So yeah, I would say if someone wants to put the work into it, I mean, I'm not gonna object to it, but it needs to be one PR that does it all in one shot.
Okay. So
And
Yvonne,
go ahead.
Yvonne is planning a session, sort of training new contributors at his company, and the one thing we don't want to happen is have them put the work in and then have their patches rejected. But I think it's certainly reasonable to ask for a single issue rather than a meta issue with a bunch of little novice issues attached to it. And I think a bunch of novices can very well learn to work together on one larger patch.
And I've been sitting pondering on if there's any BC issues for it, but I think my original point as to why it's unnecessary alludes to the fact that there's probably not going to, there really won't be any BC issues because, again, the migration system doesn't care what order the stuff comes in. So setting one is not going to hurt anything. I mean, technically, especially if technically it wasn't deterministic before. Again, this really only affects Postgre because MySQL, whether you put an order or not, is going to ultimately be deterministic in the sense that it's going to spit things out in the order that they were entered, regardless of anything else. But with Postgres, it won't. It will just be kind of random. So, it's not. Again, that just speaks to I don't necessarily see the point, but if someone wants to put the work in, that's fine.
Okay.
I've got two questions, and one I've already forgotten. Well, he's looking for work for...
I ramble on intentionally to make people forget their questions.
Oh, it was very effective.
Thank you.
I'll use pen and paper to remember next time. Is there another task that could be done instead of this one to suit his the sprint he's having? And the other one was, if we're going to do this and add order buys, do we want to make it an option as opposed to just forcing all the queries to be ordered?
Well, I mean, we had another ticket or an issue that we talked about a while back that would have added the ability in SQL base to specify, where clauses arbitrarily, and it could easily be extended to do order buys as well, to where, if we actually accomplished that ticket, then someone could write migrations that had order buys in them by specifying it in the migration. Like if we were going to do something that was an option, I would say go back and make SQL base, more universal, where we can almost specify the entire query in the migration config instead of having a single extended source plugin for every single one. I mean, I'm sure some of the more complicated ones we'd still need an extension on, but if we were going to do something along the way of an option, I would say go back and kind of like make SQL base a big configurable thing to where we don't need, we can get rid of all of these extended source plugins and just use SQL base for
Right.
80-90% of the use cases, by specifying, coming up with some syntax to specify, the query in the migration. It'd be a lot of work, but it would be, it could be handy.
Yeah, there are pros and cons, I guess, on trying to do that. Just because we are using the abstraction for the query builder, and there are maybe some extra things happening in several places that assume the use of that. But it sounds like a general option would be really great, like specifying an option on the base SQL plugin or an extension of that class plugin, and then just checking on every query method to add the query option optionally. Sounds pretty doable and not really disruptive.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't, I mean, it would just be an additional option. You could still extend SQL base and set the query. Yeah, I mean, because SQL base is abstract, and then there's a query, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, not that I've looked at it recently, but as I recall, SQL base is an abstract, and then there's a query method that's not written in SQL base, but is overridden by everything that uses it. So when I say, and that might make it a little tricky, because if SQL base is abstract, then they obviously couldn't make it a fully functional plugin on its own. But if we extend it, then anything that extends SQL base is not going to get that extra functionality. So we'd have to put some thought into that. Hey, Lucas.
Hi there.
Hi, Lucas. We're discussing adding config parameters to SQL base, particularly for the order by, that option that Ivan was looking into. So what do we think? Sprinkle order bys everywhere or do it in one place?
It's kind of hard to do it in one place, isn't it? Because you don't know what it is you're ordering by, whether it's NID or TID for the node or taxonomy term.
Well, it would be more of you'd have an order by configuration in SQL base that would add that to the query, and then you'd have to set it in each individual migration. Which again, for the core migrations that support the UI upgrade, again, I don't see it's necessary, but if someone wants to add it to their own migrations, they can. I don't know if that will ultimately solve Matrixkine's problem, or whoever it was that had whoever made that ticket, was Ivan or whatever.
I mean, we're basically taking SQL query and we've got this sort by. There's also a conditions issue, right? So,
Yeah, that issue's still open.
I mean, not much different if that's what it's all going to be YAML driven.
Right, that's what we were talking about before. It's like every time someone comes up with this one little thing they want to do, I start thinking about generalizing it, and then I come up with this giant project around it that I don't have time to do and no one will ever do, and it never happens, which is where we're at now. Someone wants to be able to order sequels, then my thought immediately goes back to it'd be really nice to have the ability to modify or even all but build the query right in the YAML, preventing people from because if you're writing anything custom now, you have to basically extend SQL base and write your own query, and you have to make a custom source for anything custom. And it'd be really neat to I mean, even if it was basically putting the bulk of that configuration and work into SQL base and then just writing a generic SQL class that extends it, and then people could use
I like that idea. So My one concern, and I don't know if I raised it, and I don't even know if it is a concern, is that we do an order by inside of the high watermark logic.
Hmm.
All like hidden behind the scenes behind
Right.
everything. So like what order by does this, what does this do to anyone who's added high watermarks to their, that was my BC implications concern, is like
Yeah.
we've already got maybe another order by, and SQL being what SQL is, like what if you have now 2 order bys and now you didn't expect them, or now you need to have an alias or something on your order by.
Well, no, worse, in 98% of those cases, the thing that you're going to want to order by is going to be the high water mark anyway, because it's going to be a node ID or a entity
Yes.
ID.
Oh, I know. This is probably like a 1% edge case that we.
I don't know that it is. I mean, I think if you start putting order bys directly in the various SQL sources, then yeah. I mean, about the only thing high water could do is you'd have to use that high water, or in the high water processing, you'd have to look and see if it's already ordered by the thing that you were going to order by it, and then order it by, and then not.
Yeah.
But then the harder question is you would have to prioritize the high water mark order by for high water to work, which would just completely disrespect the other one. So
Okay, so
that's a
now
whole
you
nother
see what I
issue.
meant by that now.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in a role.
Well,
like
high
we
water.
did. High water's always got these tricky little bugs
Right.
that
Right.
Berdier always finds
Mm-hmm.
and comes up with these great points.
High water can work without the order by. You just you lose the efficiency of doing the high water in the SQL. You would then have to go retrieve everything and eliminate, which the code is set up still to do. Like it does that if you can't join the map, or if you can't join tables or whatever. Like,
well, I set the join map false about half the time anyways, because joining across databases or something, or but I should probably bring that up. I should probably bring that ticket up again and try to clarify what I meant by BC. Did we link it somewhere? Is it in Slack somewhere?
I put a link to the condition one in the chat. It's the same chat.
Trying to remember. So high water has to order by because it always saves the current thing as the high water, and so if you start doing things out of order, it's going to skip. Like if you do a higher number and then go back, it's going to skip it in the secondary skip for high water. So so you really can't order by anything else.
Yeah, so why don't we just say that if somebody has high water set up and they put in a configuration to order by, we just say, no, you can't do that, throw an error. Or let them know we're ignoring it. Like, you can't do high water and track changes. You can't do high water and order by. Or different.
I mean, you can. You just have to order by the high water, which again, 99%
but how would we?
is going to be what you want to do anyway.
So let's not spend the whole meeting talking about the
people's
one proposal.
Well, we'll bring it up next week again for sure and talk about it some more.
Yeah, I would definitely like to. I'm not sure if there is more items on the agenda, but I do want to talk about migrate tools and Drush.
Yeah, I think that's important, and that's something that I think I'm ready to start paying some attention to now. So far, I've been happily letting Marco have at it, but I'd like to see this wrapped up. So what's the current state of affairs?
Yeah, so it has been a real discovery for me because the main point for the video, I guess, is that Drush core included a set of migrate
Excuse me.
commands.
Can I interrupt?
Sorry?
Can we go back and finish the previous discussion first before we do the drush? Can we just
Yes.
summarize where we're at so we don't get lost? And maybe even a comment on some issue. I don't know.
I just added a comment to the issue and put it back to needs work, saying if we automatically add this, it'll break high water mark, adding order by, or at least cause us to think some more than simply blindly adding it. Maybe not the most clear. I'll work on editing my comment, but there's at least a comment.
Which issue number, please? Because I'm not sure I know. Oh.
There we go. Just look for most recently updated issue. It's number 3220155.
I was having either a sick moment or a senior moment. Take your pick.
So here, I'll share my screen briefly.
Right.
So that's the top of the issue, and then the most recent comment must be the one that Lucas
Right.
just added.
Thank you for that. I feel better now. Cheers.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to migrate tools and Drush and running migrations from the command line?
Yeah. Thank
Marco?
you. Yes.
Yeah, so just to summarize for the video, so Drush is providing its own set of migrate commands since one of the recent versions, and this is actually the start of the year, I think, and that means that it is now clashing with the commands that are in migrate tools, which is one of the ways to run migration from the command line from Drush. And yeah, so there is need to do something about it. And during DrupalCon, I actually took a big look at how that is working, what is the difference between the two set of commands. And the good part is that most of the commands are really similar, or because they actually, I think, start from the same code base. Really, at some point it was diverted because the other one was started from migrate run, but migrate run, I think, shares some history with migrate tools. So really, it's pretty similar. And yeah, there were several differences, but they were mostly small. Still is not fully clean to implement it, the extra things on top of migrate of the migrate commands in Drush, but it is possible. And what I have been trying is to do that. So basically, I'm removing a lot of things in migrate tools, and several of the commands already are removed in the issue I have been working on. There is actually a merge request related to that on the migrate tools issue QE. I will find the issue and paste it on the stack right now, but it is it is in process. The main commands are really not fully implemented. I think I only implemented one, and there are a lot of them that I basically have removed, and I have been adding also patches into Drush to get the extra things that we have in migrate tools that we do not on Drush, and they have been really receptive, and so I also really liked that. And yeah, basically code is improving in Drush migrate commands, and we are getting basically the same set of features on both. And at some point, I think that the only extra thing we really want to do is the groups idea inside migrate tools. So really, most of the rest should may actually can live really inside Drush migrate commands. And yeah, that's what I have been pushing into, but it's not fully finished. And I have been mainly using the hooks. So there are some hooks that the commands provide. I don't even remember, it's consolidation command that provides that hooks API. So you basically annotate one the methods that you have in your class, and you will get into some of the hook points for the commands. And that's the way I have been implementing the extra things that we need from migrate tools, but just extending the ones that are in Drush core. And I think that's a really good summary of what is happening. And I have been trying to reach out, but yeah, I couldn't have the chance to talk with you, Lucas, about it. And I was just wondering, I have been mentioning this over the migrate meetings,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, your feedback will be really welcome.
Do we have like a table showing where things are between what we were able to get incorporated upstream in Drush and is already done, and what is going to remain in tools, or even like the
Yeah,
status of those things? Like
yeah.
I mean, a
So there
spreadsheet would
could,
work, or
yeah. So there is not exactly that, but yeah, the thing is that we have two places. The original one is in GitLab. So yeah, I think I have
are we
the
still
issue,
using
but yeah,
GitLab, or are we
between,
back to Drupal.org for that pull request?
yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that the most of the analysis of the comparison is on GitLab, because at that point we were on GitLab, and the actual code with the changes is now on Drupal.org. So I will find the ticket and paste
Okay.
it. But yeah.
Hey, can we wrap up that topic, or is there more to say? I promise I will actually devote time over
I
the
will,
next.
once we get the issue, well, one of the things would be really helpful is sort of to show like, okay, migrate import or whatever that, migrate, migrate import 100% except for migrate rollback, 90% except for these two things. Like, and even like, if it's not there yet, here's the GitHub issue that I'm hoping to do this work into Drush, so that we can just go down the list, and then once all 8 or 10 tools Drush commands are sort of done, then it'd be quick and easy. I did just recently add a new Drush command to migrate tools, which lets you build a dependency tree, very similar to like Symfony console sort of dependency tree of like dependencies and things. So we have now another new thing that would have to maybe possibly go upstream. Okay.
I think that the hard part is the commands that already exist. So if we do really have a new one, it would be great if it can live on Drush core migrate commands. But if not, it is totally okay to just add a new command to the migrate namespace from migrate tools.
Great.
So it looks like I found
So
the
I
right
pasted
issue.
the
I think
yes,
this is the
yes.
same one that you I'm sharing my screen, the same one that you pasted into the chat. And for the sake
Yeah.
of the recording, it's 3213947.
Yeah, and there is a link there to the GitLab issue that contains the actual comparison of the two set of commands in DrashCore and in Migrate Tools. But yeah, it was done at the time of the DrupalCon, so it's been some time since that started. The actual git commit hashes are there of the actual compared code. So yeah, feedback is welcome. So I guess that's the issue where we want to coordinate. So please provide feedback there.
And test failures, is that sort of to be expected right now, or?
Yeah, there's the code is not yet fully ready in the sense that there is still some code that is like taking exactly the same commands. So yeah, definitely there is more things to do, but yeah, the one thing, maybe the most interesting code to show is the relation, the migrate status, that is one of the first one implementing groups from the extension. Benji, would you like to show the merge request code now, or maybe we can just go to the next
No,
topic? It's also
yeah, we
okay.
can move to that. I'll let Benji move us along.
Yeah, I don't want to get that far into the details at this meeting, but I promise I will get that far into the details on my own.
That is great to hear.
So if we're ready to move on to other things, could we spend a few minutes thinking about the things that we have accomplished since the last in the last 3 months? Just because I think we all feel a constant inadequacy that we're not doing enough, and it would be nice to celebrate a few things that we have accomplished. I know that several months ago, Vicky went through the issues marked as postponed. Maintainer needs more information, or whatever the phrase is, and posted comments saying that we're threatening to close this issue. And just in the last week, I went through and actually closed most of those. There was one that I reopened because I was able to reproduce the bug, or at least I was able to reproduce the failing test. But we did a little bit of cleanup there, and that also raises the question, what other things are we not paying attention to that maybe we should be paying more attention to on a regular basis? So probably we should go through another round of cleaning up the issue queue, including the postponed maintainer needs more info issues, and maybe some of the other issue statuses that we don't look at all that regularly. I do regularly look at the primary statuses of needs review, RTBC, and fixed. I record that on a weekly basis. Any other accomplishments in the last 3 months? I know one other thing that I spent a lot of time on is the issue about permissions. So paste that into my window I'm sharing, 2571235. So this is the issue that we shouldn't allow user roles to have permissions that are not defined by some module. So 2571235, roles should depend on objects that are building the granted permissions. And Alex Pott was looking for someone to review his work, and uh, I did that, and it finally got fixed just a week or two ago.
That was a lot of work. Good job.
Mm, it was.
Thank you.
I was watching from the sidelines too. Yeah.
But I, of course, got into this issue from the related migration issue, which Vicky had been working on.
Yep.
And there must certainly be a link here, yes, as a related issue. So now that we've fixed this issue, we should get back to that one.
Yes.
And
Yep.
because it is still a problem that migrations can create user roles with any old permission you want, whether or not it's provided by a module. And now that Alex Potts issue is finished, we should figure out how we want to handle that. So there, I weaved in a little bit of mission accomplished and also work still that needs to be done.
right.
Lucas, you posted something into the chat. Let me see if I can get that into the window I'm sharing. No.
There we go. My computer locked up for a second there. This is an issue that I was aware of. It is not actually related to migrations directly, but it could be one of those that has been sort of causing the performance and maybe memory loss issues related to running a migration with a large number of files. Does anyone remember that we have that open issue out there that's been open for about 8 years? Hey, my migration runs out of memory.
Yep.
And it all seems to comes back to file migrations usually, but that's about as far as we get. This one is a possible cause, maybe.
So has anyone?
And that got fixed relatively easily, relatively quickly, under a month, almost under a month.
Lucas, have you
Hello?
made a comment on the file, on our old file issue, the memory issue, to link to this, just because it's possible?
Let me look it up, but yes, let me do that.
I mean,
Well, it was opened on May 21st, but don't look at the last updated date. That's when it moved from fixed to closed. It was opened on May 21st and fixed on June 14th, so it was less than a month.
I was actually pleasantly surprised how quickly that landed. Memory
it's lovely
leak.
when that happens.
Is it this one? No. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
Oh, and I see, Joshua, you've joined the meeting. We're currently asking for our recent successes. What have you accomplished since the last time we had one of these video meetings in the last 3 months, in other words?
Hi, everybody. Only in core migration or like contrib migration stuff as well?
Oh, contrib counts too.
Okay. Yeah, so Migrate Media Handler, which is the one that I wrote for converting non-media entities in 7 to media entities in 8 or 9, finally went platinum. 1.0 release.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And then of course I've got, new stuff in the queue, and And there's a dev version with a thing for some alt text handling and titles and stuff. But yeah, getting the 1.0 out actually was on my to-do list for a long time, and I finally crossed it off. So that's a big deal to me. So
Yes. Thanks. And I have a soft spot in my heart for that, even though I haven't used it, because it's I think the first contrib module that uses the DOM processing plugins that Marco and I
yes.
worked on.
Yeah, I had actually written it like the very first version of the handler. I didn't use that, and I was about to release it. Like when I was writing it just internally for a project, I didn't use that because it wasn't out. And then like I was about to release it as a contrib module, and the DOM plugins came out, and I went, oh well, I should just integrate with those. So I pulled a bunch of stuff out and and integrated. It was really good timing. So yeah.
And then there's this issue that I think, Vicky, is this the one you pasted into
Oh
the
yeah.
chat?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was one of my albatrosses.
So created in 2015 and updated early May of this year. So that would be when it was moved from fixed to closed. It was fixed in April, I guess.
It's worth a mention. It was a long haul, that one.
Well done.
Absolutely. I think I also got a few more process plugins added to Migrate Plus. I think maybe 2 related to DOM processing and one other.
And that's more just, I've been trying to go through more like once a month and look through things in the queues. And I did that last week and I got through 2 of my modules. I don't think I got to Migrate Tools though, or Migrate Plus, but I got through a few. So my apologies, not to get through more.
Benji,
Yeah.
you mentioned the other things in the issue queue, and I've been thinking about that. And one thing we should do in these videos is the ones in the plan that are marked planned category.
Planned category.
Yeah, there's 11 of them.
So hang on. Is that a status? How do you find these?
The category plan.
Category plan. In
It's
the
a bit of
migration
a
system?
recent thing. It's a bit of a recent addition.
Oh, is it?
Well, I say recent, it's probably like 3 years old now.
Okay.
Seems to be older than that, but well, maybe I should only look at the open ones. So you're suggesting this is something we should look at more regularly?
Yeah, definitely in these calls when we have us together and can do that kind of forward planning and things. Because, it's talking about migrating D9, for example. Are we going to support migrating from Drupal and from Drupal 7, Drupal 10, that kind of thing? Big picture stuff.
There's like a Drupal 6 sunset or deprecation. Is there a plan for that?
There is a issue for the deprecation of 6.
We should do that now.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have them removed by 10. But
Well, in order
it's a
to
lot of work.
deprecate all that, though, we have to get the ability to deprecate plugins, and that issue isn't fixed yet.
Right.
And
I was watching though that's making some strides if Tim's going to pick that up.
Yeah. I'm just not clear in my head if it's going to be easier to deprecate 6 alone or just to wait and do 6 and 7 at the same time. Or is it just going to be too much work to split it?
Well, I mean, it is going to be a lot of work to split it because we do have a lot of plugins that that we have set up for both, and we don't want to.
That scares me. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't want to like just erase 6 either. We want to move it to contrib. But I think we should put the effort into splitting it, because I mean ultimately we'll end up with 6 in contrib as one module, and like long term, and I don't know if this is Drupal 11 or 12, we'll have 7 over in contrib, and we'll probably want that to be a separate model than 6.
Really?
So, well, because you only want one or the other. Why bring all the extra cruft in, you know? But
Because there's so much duplication, like you just pointed out.
well,
And it'll be harder to maintain if it does need maintenance, if you need to update it into separate contrib modules.
well, I mean, if that's what we want to do, if we want to put 6 and 7 into the same module ultimately, then I suppose I don't have a problem with keeping 6 in core for now until we're ready to do both. But I don't know when or if that's ever going to be, because, you know, Drupal 7 is going to have paid support for at least another, well, so it's got actual support for another 1.5 years, and then it's going to have paid support for 3 more years, at least past that, if not more. And even after all,
but it's going to
I
be
mean,
in contrib. It doesn't have official core support, so we can remove it from core.
well, yeah.
Okay, so
but
Webchick might disagree here, but
right, exactly. Like as long as you go look at the Drupal adoption numbers, and Drupal 7 still has way more installs than 8 or 9 combined, we got to leave that in core, because we have to make it as convenient as possible for people to get off 7. And that's just Angie's
but
gonna
what about all the
insist on
Drupal
that,
6
but I
sites that are
agree with
still
her.
upgrading?
Well, but the numbers aren't
And the
if you
Drupal
go,
5 one that
well, I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers in a little while, but let me see what they are. Recent statistics.
I'm
for
pulling
Drupal.
your leg a little bit there, but no,
Well, no,
it
I
is
know,
a thing.
but that's it. So I don't have like all well, let's see. Currently on 5x 300, on 6x 18,000, on 7x 550,000, and everything else is broken up by major release. But off the top, I mean, there's a total of 9, so there's 959, so there's about 400,000 on 8 and 9 combined. So you know, there's still more people on 7 than there are
That's
on
because
8 and 9.
it's going to drop between now and, especially if you have to upgrade to 9 before you can go to 10. Going from 7 into 10 directly seems 7, 8. You're jumping 4 versions. I would propose we open up a policy no patch and ask about deprecating 6 and 7 going into Drupal 10.
I mean,
It
Drupal
starts
10
a conversation.
yeah, I just already know how that conversation is going to go. Because 10 comes out next summer and 7's not even EOL until the end of next year. So
Yeah.
Oh, if
I
that's
mean,
the case, no.
there's no
can't.
way we're going to be able to rip the sources out of 7
No.
before it's even EOL.
So it'd
the
be 11
sources
then.
for
So do we
7
just
out of
wait till
4.
11 then?
I mean, at this point, we might as well, because I don't see us actually getting 6 pulled out this before 10. You know, I don't see us actually getting 6 properly deprecated, and the actual code to remove, or the actual removal done before Drupal 10. I just don't see it happening.
Let's postpone that. I mean, it's not taking up that much of our time.
No, it doesn't take a whole lot of maintenance anymore. We're not really expanding what it can do.
It's not that many lines of code, comparatively speaking, to the rest of core. I mean, like, what's the big win for pulling it out?
Support. Because
support.
anytime we do anything, yeah, anytime we do anything for 7, we have to do it for 6 too, and no one uses it, but we still have to fix it. And so having the bug fixes like pushed off out of core would be nice.
Pulling all of the YAMLs out would be would allow us to focus on sort of the more of the cases of we're just trying to be like a destination. We'd be focusing on the destination plugins at that point.
Yeah.
Which is very simple, destination. And process,
Well,
I mean process too.
I mean, the YAMLs are easy enough to remove. It's all the sources that are just jumbled together with
Every
the 7
module out
sources.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that separating Drupal 6 sources from the Drupal 7 sources would be a lot of effort. And in the long run, we'll be removing both of them. So in the long run, that's a lot of wasted effort. I guess what you would save is once you do remove the sources for 6, you wouldn't have to maintain them anymore. But that doesn't seem to me like a big enough payout. I'm happy to just sit patiently and wait until Drupal 7 has gone away, which is not going to be for a few years, and then remove them both at the same time.
Well, that also brings up another long-term thought about migrate, which is, you know, I, of course, find it absolutely useful to get data into Drupal from all sorts of places. I very rarely do 6 and 7 upgrades anymore, but I'm constantly bringing stuff in from other sources, so I find it useful. But our barometer of whether, you know, for example, a process plugin should be in core is whether or not we need it for a core migration. With 6 and 7 gone, we don't have any migrations in core. The whole, I mean, we can lose the whole migrate Drupal UI. Well, I mean, migrate Drupal is kind of handy to have some entity sources, but you know, I mean, that cuts out all of the system, and all of a sudden we got process plugins that just aren't, you know, core doesn't use them. So, you know, I think it's useful to have that stuff in core, but then all of a sudden I start wondering, well, all right, so when do we add a new process plugin that's handy in core versus putting it in Migrate Plus?
What about
we won't have that.
REST and JSON API and other? I guess what you
Yeah.
don't get with JSON API is you don't get the state machine. You don't get the, have I already done this before?
I don't know. I mean, we could also consider some sort of, you know, some limited WordPress migration capabilities in core. I mean, that would be something to discuss with Angie if there's any like interest in trying to build out some kind of like migration from another CMS system into Drupal. Angie would no doubt have opinions on that.
Well, maybe we should be doing the two together. When we're ready to remove the migrate sources for Drupal 6 and Drupal 7, at more or less the same time, we can think about what process plugins are generally useful and move a bunch of them at once from contrib into core.
This feels like a core conversation or a conversation with others.
Well, this is many, many years off, so let's have that conversation.
We all think that, but it's not either.
Well, it's at least something to be done in Drupal 11. So, I mean, I don't think we need to
When's the
start at
deadline for
3
10?
years.
When's the code freeze for 10?
February.
Yeah, that's 6 months, 7 months from now. So
Yeah.
the second that code freeze goes in, then we have 2 years. We should see about, yeah.
I think 10's going to last more than 2 years. Last I talked, Jess was just very, very adamant that they're not going to do a major release every 2 years, despite the fact that I think that would be handy with Symfony's release. It would tie us into Symfony's, like they just don't want to do it. So I think 10 will release on Symfony 6, and that'll give it at least a 4 to 5 year life. But
Well, then
despite
the
all
major
of
will
that,
become the new minor.
Well, despite all that, I mean, I think this is probably a bigger conversation to have with some of the committers and Gavor and Angie and Jess maybe and Catch might have opinions.
Yeah, because it's also about deciding which are the right sources that we want to pull from. I mean, for the specific case that was mentioned, there is already a contrib module for WordPress Migrate that tries to do that for a simple WordPress site. So yeah, I guess it's an open conversation for the future.
So one of my motivations to work with Migrate is it's, helps pay the bills. And I think that's kind of what most of us on the call would say. Or
Yeah.
so then my itch that I have to scratch with core development was getting 7 and 8 or 6 and 7 to 8 and 9 stable, the upgrade path. And that's been sort of there for a little while. One will say that their upgrade path wasn't as stable as they liked, and we could have discussions about that, and we do. But let's just face it. I think that as an initiative, things have sort of calmed down since maybe 2 years ago. So what's the next major thing? What's the next big thing? I mean, we're polishing this glass ball, really beautiful, making it look nice. But is there something that we could do to, like, new features that we should be looking at instead, or should we be taking the 10 developers that traditionally sort of jump around in this ground and have them all go off and work on JSON API and sort of sunset this because this is not critical?
Well, I mean, the
know.
initiative was, I mean, I'm with you. The initiative was started specifically to get people from 7 to 8. And yeah, I'm with you in the sense that that's, we'll keep polishing it, but it's done. A skilled developer can get you from 7 to 8 now using the tools that we built, and you'll have to do a little work, but there's people that can do it.
And there's hundreds of them out there.
I don't want to make it too easy because I get paid to do that, as well. So
no, we can make it as easy. No, I know you are, but we can make it is pretty easy.
No, I guess my point is that in addition to that, though, I find the migration system like one of the reasons, and I don't know if you ever used to watch these issue queues, like Wim and I used to have really big conversations about things he wanted to do and me why I didn't want to, or things he didn't want to do and me with why I should. And it was because we used Migrate for two different things. Wim is very focused in Acquia on Drupal 7, on getting people from 7 to 9.
Because
and 7
of the
to 8.
cloud factory such.
Right. And so everything he did and wanted to do with Migrate, and rightfully so, from his perspective, was focused on that. I've definitely done my share of D7 upgrades, but I would say at least more than half of what I use Migrate for is not a D7 upgrade. I'm currently working on a project bringing in data from a completely different CMS. I'm always doing feed type stuff with Migrate. They're like every project I touch, I seem to have, and maybe it's just because my brain, that's my favorite tool and it's my go-to, and maybe there are other ways to do things, some of these, but like I use Migrate a lot for things that aren't anything to do with Drupal upgrades. And
this is just me.
What's that? And I think that the technology is useful to have in core because it does give you the base to bring data into Drupal, which wherever that's coming from makes Drupal more useful. So I think we definitely should keep it. The question is do we on a core level, focus more towards something like migrate feeds? Do we focus towards something like trying to build a WordPress migration into core? Do we focus on something along those lines? What do we take all of the like very specific sources out and focus more on abstracting things away and getting things like CSV, JSON, SQL sources in there that are all configurable through the YAML, so that people can do more custom migrations without writing custom code. I think there are places that we can take it in core that keep it having value in core as a tool to encourage people to get into Drupal. And really that's at the end of the day, every module that's in core is there because we want more people to adopt this CMS, and migrate is always going to make that easier in some form. It's just how can we tune it in core to provide the most value as far as helping people get into Drupal from wherever they are right now.
I think
So
you're
that
hitting
sounds like
something
a
really key
topic
there.
for the next video call.
I think that waiting 3 months though is too long.
It's too long.
I think
Oh, okay.
I think if we could summarize a little bit what we have, and someone wanted to volunteer to reach out to Gabor and see if we can do a one-off little session with Gabor and friends about Drupal 10.11 plans, that might be interesting and might sort of, what I was trying to say there was, I'm not really passionate at this point about Drupal core migrate because it's so stable. It works. What's the next thing that's going to make me like dive back into things with my resolve of like as if I was 10 years younger?
Should we try to get a core conversation scheduled at DrupalCon Europe?
No, it's way too darn early.
That's really early in the morning.
We'll do it in Portland.
I've done DrupalCon Europe the last two. It was way too early.
I did it. Yeah, I did it last year too, and I didn't like getting up at 3 a.m. I mean, it was fine to sit and watch a couple of things, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to have a conversation. We'll do it in Portland in April.
Yeah, but let's do something with Gabor and friends, and Webchick will join us, and someone sort of try to summarize what our talking points. Let's get 4 talking points and an agenda and say, we want to plan this out. What's the next big thing? We've got developers here. What can we do to make migrate better? And if the answer is, well, it's great and all, but it's so stable, we don't really need WordPress but here's what we do need. Then let's try to take this really pretty great team of developers here, and maybe we need to find another subsystem or something.
You're just plugging to get help with automatic updates right now? Are you really?
I haven't touched automatic updates in like a year.
Oh,
I've been I'm busy on client projects.
Gotcha.
Really cool client projects.
Yeah, I think we should have, even if it's just like an asynchronous conversation in the issue queue where we ping Angie and Gabor and just try and see what their thoughts are on the long-term stuff, just to start the conversation. I think we should have conversations now. I also do think we should grab some committer time, and we'll do it on, we'll do a Zoom too, but during DrupalCon in April, I think, because that'll be right around Drupal 10's done, and we'll be really starting to figure out what to do next. So I think we should do both and figure that out.
The link I put into the chat is about this. It's about the future of migrating core.
Hey,
yeah, we probably have issues, I'm sure. It's not the first time we've talked about this. I know that.
Yeah.
I know it's not.
Okay. What else? We're up against our time slot.
Well, we're over the time.
I actually have to drop, guys, but it was really good to talk to you and finally actually put faces to names. For Michael, I know that guy.
Ciao.
Bye, Josh.
Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I would like to potentially close an issue. So if you could hang out for another minute, I'm posting it in the chat. Based on our discussions about Drupal supporting, should Drupal 10 support migrating from Drupal 7? Based on our discussion, I think that's a clear yes.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
we can say
that's-
yes to this and close it.
Yep.
Yes.
Put on your hat as a maintainer and say you chatted with so and 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 so, and we all agreed on this date. And
Or,
make
or
everyone
we
happy.
Yeah,
or we
but-
could change the title and ask, should Drupal 11 support migrating from Drupal 7?
No. I've learned this from Bug Smash. Make a new issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna drop off too. Nice chatting with y'all. Vicky, you and I
Thank you,
probably need
Vicky.
to just chat at some point when we have
Okay.
common between you and Mauricio and I, just because I haven't chatted with you. But I'll do that. Or yeah, we'll chat. Okay.
All right. Well, ping me
I'm getting
in
called.
Slack.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Hi, Lucas. Catch you later.
And Marco, you will be hearing from me.
That is great.
All right.
So maybe for this time we are out of time, but I do pasted a link over the thread about this one-to-end migrations idea, because that is something that, for instance, my great media handler is doing, like creating from the body that is pointing to several files, is creating media entities, and we don't like all migrate API. It's intended to be one-to-one, and that is great. But there are some cases like the media import that are
Right.
one-to-end.
Yep.
So yeah, it's something to think about, and can also be like rethink for the whole migrate API. But yeah, I will just leave it at that because I know we don't have time. There are links on Slack.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Bye.
Thanks
Talk
for
to you next
facilitating,
week and
Virgie.
see you in a few months.
Bye.
Bye-bye.